Hey everybody, Alex here for Nerdy Inc. coming at you with another episode of Our Favorite Frontier, the only Star Trek podcast on the internet that's hosted by me and Nick. Hey Nick.
Hey Alex, how are you?
I'm fine.
Oh yeah?
I'm fine. This episode was not fine, and we're going to talk about it. Today we're talking about Coming of Age, the 19th episode of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Captain's log, stardate 41416.2. We're orbiting Relva 7, where Wesley Crusher is about to be tested for entrance into Starfleet Academy. And to my great surprise, I have just learned that my old friend Admiral Gregory Quinn is on Relva 7 and has requested to be beamed aboard the Enterprise immediately.
Nick, what did you think of Coming of Age?
I was okay with it.
You were okay with it.
Yes.
All right? Talk me through your thought process. What you got?
Well, I thought it was entertaining, to say the least. There was like an interrogation thing, and I like that. I kind of like that kind of stuff where people kind of like question the motives of people.
Mm-hmm.
So like an interrogation style episode was kind of enjoyable, and actually giving Wesley something productive to kind of do. Though we don't like Wesley, it was actually kind of refreshing instead of him just being like a Mary Sue little bitch. He kind of like had to prove himself and actually like show where his faults are and stuff. So though he didn't really have many faults within the academy, it was just nice to see him actually doing something what I consider productive.
And it was nice to see that for all of his good efforts, he still wasn't good enough.
Yes. That was also enjoyable, but that freaking weird scrotum looking dude, he won in the end.
Yeah. So obviously there's basically two halves of the story, so let's talk about the Wesley half first. We got Wesley going to take a test for Starfleet exam entrance. He gets in over the ship, the kid on the ship, Jake, who looks like the weirdest child I've ever seen in my entire life. He does not look like a young person. I don't know what it was about the 80s, but children shouldn't look the way that child did. I was weirdly hung up on that. So he goes onto the planet and he's going to take a test with another human, a Vulcan, and then a barite, a benzite. I forget what the species of that weird guy is. But the one thing I like about that character's design, he's a benzite. The one thing I like about that character's design is that it doesn't look like he breathes oxygen. He has like a mask to put some other gas into his nose and mouth so he can breathe a different thing. I thought that was nifty.
It's like a weird like retainer thing. I thought it was like in his mouth until I realized he was breathing out of it.
Yeah, it was like blowing gas every couple seconds. And then they take some tests, and then ultimately the psych test, the big scary test, comes up, and twist, turns out the psych test wasn't what he expected. And Wesley had to act in a moment of panic, and ultimately that was the test.
But he knew... This is my issue. The entire episode, he's talking about how the psych test is going to be like that, and then he went into the room for the psych test, and then was surprised that was the psych test. Yeah,
that's the same thing. The minute you heard that explosion, you said, they're pulling a fast one on me. I guess Wesley hasn't watched a lot of TV to know that's a cliche. Also, one of the things that stuck out to me about this, I don't think any of the writers of this episode have ever taken a standardized test in their life. Now, you and I went to the same high school, Nick.
That is correct.
We
went to the same high school.
So we went to the same high school together, and we took standardized tests called the Regents in many subjects. We took them at the same time. Nick, can you answer this for me? In any of those standardized tests that we took, were we ever unsupervised?
Never.
And were we allowed to help each other on these standardized tests?
Absolutely not.
Starfleet Academy, what the hell are you doing? This was, ignoring the fact that the test was bonkers. Like, you have a computer. I hate the trope of a computer reading aloud to you. I don't understand why in the future it's so much more convenient to have a computer read to you as opposed to you just reading at your own pace. But the fact that it's perfectly acceptable testing procedure for Wesley to start helping his opponents, basically, with a question. And how is that graded? How does that factor into anything? Because it said Chang, the tech officer, said, yeah, we factored that in. How do you measure that?
Oh yeah, there's a Good Samaritan application to the test. Yeah, we forgot to mention that though.
Yeah, that was nuts. And then, like we said, the final psych exam is the whole fake explosion problem in the reactor room or whatever.
And then they really fuck with his head. They're like, yeah, like, supposed to make you think about your father dying. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that took a very dark turn. The ultimately though, I think you're right in that this was the first time Wesley was used fairly well. He didn't magically solve any problems for the ship. It showed his limitations. He has a little arc, and I think this. I was okay with Wesley this whole episode. I didn't like him, but I was like, yeah, okay, you know what, this is.
It makes you feel, and again, you know, and I don't know. It makes you feel that like we're gonna get a little bit more positiveness out of Wesley. Like maybe it sets up like Wesley is gonna be okay and a utilized character and someone we're gonna really be happy about being on the ship. Just from that, like okay, he wants to try harder. He really wants to get involved. I feel like it's not going to be like, oh, Wesley saves a day randomly on a fluke, or Wesley's getting in trouble. He might actually be just like a nice person you could utilize.
Yeah, he actually. This is where I feel like he actually falls into, I don't want to say rank, but basically is doing the appropriate thing for his crew as well as in the story.
Just thinking about how you said, as God would do, Gene Roddenberry created Wesley in this image.
Yes.
I don't know why he wouldn't take like a different, like a George Lucas style approach, where he kind of would make Wesley the one to really, like, the quote unquote chosen one, as Anakin is. I know obviously that movie, the prequels didn't come out when this was around, but like if he wanted to make someone in his image and like that, he should have made Wesley like, oh, he's the focus of the show. And then he builds up. I mean, it's not a good idea from what we see of Wesley, but I wonder why he didn't take that approach instead.
All I will say to that is stay tuned.
Oh, dear God.
You will... I don't want to say anything, because it's just... Anyone who's watched the show knows exactly what I'm referring to. It's... What happens to him is bonkers. Bonkers. So, overall, Wesley was well used, and his story was not bad. So instead, let's flip to the other side of the story.
Oh God. I love this part of the story.
Which is an admiral and his...
Oh, wait, first of all, could we just mention one thing? I just looked at my notes really quick.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
How about Wesley going ham on that bitch?
Oh, I know, right? And of course she has to say, she's like, I didn't expect you to be so handsome.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant when he was arguing with that guy. I wasn't saying bitch as in referring to a woman, because that's disrespectful. I meant that asshole who bumps into Wesley and he starts freaking out and the Wesley just fucking pummels him.
Because his species responds to aggression.
Yeah, but the fact that Wesley just went fucking ham was that's what Wesley should be all the time.
Just angry? Just an angry young man?
Just an angry young man just screaming at, different cultures.
Why must he be, such like an angry young man?
Don't sing.
Okay.
Don't sing. You know you can't sing. And don't ruin one of my favorite songs.
So back on the Enterprise...
Oh, there was one more issue I had.
Okay, go ahead. I was trying to make a funny, awkward transition.
You're the king.
Go ahead.
Only one person goes through the Academy a year.
So yeah, I found that awkward too. I was trying to think about... I mean, obviously no. Obviously that's not the case. I wonder why it was such an artificial... I mean, obviously for story purposes they wanted Wesley to fail. But it's... Ultimately, you wouldn't want to take the top kid out of every 4 randomly selected people from certain locations. You would just want to take the top 25 overall. Which is why it also doesn't make sense that it would have been determined that day who got accepted. Yeah, that's a very strange thing. I don't think you're meant to think about the logistics of it because they don't make any fucking sense. But
Oh, don't even talk about logistics and making sense in this episode, because there's one part I really want to talk about.
Yeah.
But no, one person a year, if that is just in between the 4 of the space stations or the entire thing, I just think it's just impractical.
Yeah.
They should at least put one person from every thing. Like the Enterprise should have a representative or someone, or a few people they put through the academy. That's how it works for high schools and the college.
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense.
It's just how it works.
It doesn't make sense. It just
made no sense. Okay, back to Picard.
Okay, so Admiral Quinn and Commander Remick come on board because they say something is wrong. Remick basically shadows everyone throughout the day. He does his interviews, concludes nothing is wrong, and the Admiral's like, well, alrighty then. He offers Picard a job. Picard's like, nah, and then he leaves. In a weirdly open-ended way, I will say, but he does leave.
The investigator is my favorite character in Star Trek.
Remick?
Remick is my favorite character because I feel like I identify with him the most.
Why is that?
Because he, just like myself, questions Picard's motives as captain, and if he's even okay to fit in that role. When he was interrogating everyone right at the beginning, I was like, this guy is my style. This guy knows Picard's bullshit.
Yeah, he calls out, you violated the Prime Directive? Yeah, and I stand by it. You understand that it's the Prime Directive, right? It's rule A number 1. I understand.
And then he's like, yeah, he was on the Stargazer and with the Frame, he wasn't in control of the ship, and they're like, he wasn't under control. He's like, oh well, that means he's like, like insubordinate or whatever they said. And I'm just like, this guy's on my level. This guy knows what I'm talking about, what I've been bitching about in this podcast since we started.
Yeah.
I was able to really drive with him. Not drive. I could drive with him, I suppose.
You could. Speaking of interviewing people, this is a very special episode. You may not have noticed something, Nick, but this is a very special episode. This is the first appearance of the Riker maneuver. What is the Riker maneuver, you say? Well, it's the way Riker sits in chairs. You may not have noticed it, but this is the first time we see Riker sit in a chair. Complete the act of actually sitting in a chair. And it's wonderful. I encourage all of you to just Google Riker sitting in chairs, and you'll know exactly what I mean. So that's the first appearance of that. Nick, by his lack of laughter, indicates to me that he does not know what I'm talking about. So
not at all.
As soon as you finish this episode, you're going to have to Google Riker sitting in chairs. And
can I do it right now?
Yeah, do it right now. Let's do it. Yeah, live watch.
Pre-recorded live, Riker.
Yes.
In chairs. That's on YouTube or just Google?
YouTube.
Riker sits down.
Yes.
Okay, it's a minute and a half.
Yeah, this is across 7 seasons.
Cool. YouTube is deciding to be awful. I'm doing it on my phone.
Okay.
Okay, let's see what we got.
Now.
What the fuck?
Transfer has been completed. Dr. Pulaski is being shown to her quarters. Grand. Number 1, I'll relieve you at 0300. Now, first words out of your mouth are the most important. You may want to start with something.
Wait.
You don't look like a person who came here to relax.
Wait.
Can I join you?
I'm done. I'm done watching this. What the fuck is he doing?
So the Riker maneuver, evidently, because when you shoot TV, you have to do takes like 6 or 7 times. Jonathan Frakes has a bad back, and so for whatever reason, the repetition of the way we all sit in chairs, he finds irritating to his back. So that's a better way for him to sit down, and it's just gorgeous.
He comes from on top of the chair.
Yeah, he flips his leg over the back of the chair and then just like sort of like squats down into it.
What the fuck?
That's the Riker maneuver.
Who taught him how to do that?
Some chiropractor who took a lot of drugs.
I'm gonna start doing it.
Let me know how it goes.
I can't wait for people to comment.
Yeah, well, when we see each other, we're recording this the week before Thanksgiving, so we'll see each other next week, and we'll like go to a party, and we'll just keep doing that. Hopefully they have chairs that are low enough to the ground and have low enough backs that we can do this.
Just gonna throw the leg over. Oh my god. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that on a date and see what happens.
Yeah. So, otherwise in this episode, we have basically Remick is just sort of being like a weasel the whole time, questioning everything, although Nick relates to him because Picard is nuts. And finally he gets to see Picard in action, and Picard has to talk down that Crazy does not look like a boy and help him guide this shuttlecraft back into the shuttle bay because he doesn't want the kid to die, obviously.
That the whole thing was horseshit.
Yeah. How does someone just casually steal a hovercraft or a shuttlecraft?
Wait, what about how he bounced off the atmosphere, as LaForge put it?
Yeah, also makes no sense.
I'm watching it, and my roommate's sitting there, and I just scream at the top of my lungs when that happens. I just go, horse shit. And he just starts laughing. I'm like, the science in the show is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
For a sci-fi show, it's not. It's fiction science more than science fiction.
And the thing is, it's frustrating too because there is a lot of very good science in Star Trek in other situations, mostly in situations that are not in season 1. But that was. Yeah, unless Neil deGrasse Tyson listens to this podcast and tweets me, he's like, "Hey, that's actually legit. I'm gonna call bullshit on this and anyone else who tries to rationalize it."
And it was that, and how LaForge was so happy. I'm like, "Fuck you! You don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you blind son of a bitch."
Yeah. So let's talk about the one big element here, which is the Admiral was ultimately looking to see if he could trust Picard because he believes there's someone infiltrating Starfleet. Nick, what do you think about that?
Well, I feel like I know the answer because I feel like you've hinted it before and you've told me not to look up stuff and you told me not to look up stuff regarding a specific character.
Okay.
So it may have been spoiled for me.
What do you think it is?
I think it's Yar.
Okay.
And I just feel that way because, I mean, I don't know if we discussed it in this podcast or we discussed it, in our regular lives. Because in our regular lives, all we do is talk about this podcast.
Yeah.
Just for the viewers to know that our life is pretty much this podcast all the time.
There's literally not a free moment in life when I'm not thinking about Star Trek.
Or talking to me about it.
Yes.
So I'm thinking it's Yar because it's some sort of security infiltration, and just from the hints of don't look her up because she's not someone you should be really looking up. When I was honestly, and I'll be honest with all of you, I heard there were nudes, and that's when you told me not to look her up because you're like you'll find something you don't want to find. And I was like, oh, I found a lot of stuff I wanted to find though, but there's nothing wrong with me. It's a perfectly regular thing because it's not like they were leaked. They were professionally taken, and it's fine. But you told me to stop looking her up because it was going to spoil something. So I feel like that's exactly what it's spoiling.
Okay. And I will not say anything.
And I respect you. I have 2 issues with this episode near the end here, and I feel like we got to that point. There's a point where Jean-Luc and Riker are talking.
Okay.
And Picard is standing by the window, and Riker is facing the other way. And they have a camera shot with Riker's back and Picard, but you can see Riker's reflection in the window. And his head nor lips are moving. They're not moving, I mean, while he's talking. I just thought that was just such a funny thing to watch. Like, you just see his reflection and Riker talking, and just no movement of the lips.
I missed that, but that makes sense. That seems like a thing that would happen on a TV budget thing in the 80s.
It was funny. Also, why is Picard wearing that dress for no reason, and then he just doesn't wear the dress in the next scene where important things would possibly happen?
Yeah, I don't know.
He wore a dress to talk to children, like Kevin Spacey would do, and then he went to talk to the Admiral, and everything was peachy keen in his regular uniform.
Yeah, the I don't like the look of the dress uniforms, like the official formal wear of Starfleet.
But what was the point?
I believe there was some sort of ceremony that he was going to go to, like a formal dinner with the Admiral. It's not really, they don't talk about it too much, probably because it's not important. That's fine by me. I'm not complaining too much, but
But I think it was ridiculous to have him do a wardrobe change for scenes to allude that he's going to something when it didn't even have to be mentioned whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was just odd that he was wearing a dress. And my biggest question about the dress is that, do you just put it on over yourself, or where the gold is that kind of the wraparound? I couldn't tell. It looked like one solid unit. It didn't look like it was wrapped or pinned anywhere.
I believe the gold trim fastens over it, sort of like the Wrath of Khan outfit, because the Wrath of Khan outfit, those sort of pin up along that black trim. I know because I have a Wrath of Khan costume.
Yes, you do.
Which I wore for
Halloween. Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a pin under it that you just couldn't see, because I was like, I want to know how you got that on, because there's no zipper.
Out of all the questions we've asked in this podcast, this is the most important one.
I think so. If anyone can answer the question, does anyone have a Picard dress that they could send us pictures of them, like demonstrating how to get it on, modeling it off per se, or would like to send one to us? Please contact us via email, Facebook, or any sort of YouTube message. I would like one myself.
Indeed.
I'd wear it to work every day, even though it's not uniform.
Well, that's pretty much all I got. Any closing points?
I made all my points.
Excellent. Overall, not a bad episode. It's more just to me there was lots of tiny little dumb things to keep it from being good. But it wasn't aggressively bad like some of our bad episodes have been. Ultimately, I was fine with it. I found it to be wonderfully okay.
I agree.
Excellent. So that wraps up this episode then. Join us next week when we discuss Heart of Glory.
Ooh, Braveheart.
I got good news for you. We are almost done with season 1.
I figured, because we're getting in there. We're getting up to those numbers.
But
I feel like there's a little bit of an arc in the series now. Like, there is an infiltration, and I hope that episodes focus on that. Because I feel like an overall story is what's going to keep me interested, as these episode by episodes where there's really no connectivity isn't helping me. Like, I like a show like, we like Monk. You would say that. You like Monk.
I like
when it was
Monk.
on TV. So every episode was different, but there was an overall series arc of Monk trying to find the killer of his wife.
I agree.
And you would be able to, within different episodes, you get more clues and stuff, and then sometimes the episode wouldn't have to relate to it at all, but it was still fun. But overall sense was like, oh, I need to watch this show because I need to figure out what's at the end of the whole series. Where these episode by episode, everything's different, it's hard to keep me captivated because I could end right now and it's not going to change my life whatsoever. I'm not going to have an overall question like, who's the one who poisoned Picard or some shit. But now that I have someone's infiltrating and they're actually going to, hopefully keep up on this, especially if you ask me, who do you think it is or what do you think it is, I feel like it's going to be brought up later. So it's keeping me excited because I want to find out. That's my closing point.
All right. So next week we're discussing Heart of Glory. And that's all we have to say for this episode. If you've enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, let us know how we're doing. Give us any sort of feedback in any possible way. As of right now, we're not on iTunes because I have to actually build out something for that. But we are on SoundCloud. You would have known that because this is the 19th episode and they've been on SoundCloud now for you guys at least 2 months. But I felt the need to bring that up anyway. I'm probably going to cut it out of the episode.
Thank you. But
yeah, that's all for this episode. Join us next week and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Our Favorite Frontier is hosted by Alex Russo and Nick Caladona, edited by Alex Russo and produced by Nerdy Inc. Be sure to follow us on YouTube to catch all of our videos, as well as like us on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other social media we have.